Coming up today on The Big Show with Bill Cunningham. Why does Todd Portune think enough is enough on collective bargaining reform? Willie asked the commish, 1206 right here on 700 WLW. Tracy Bailey joins me now. Tracy, the director of education policy for the Association of American Educators. What is the Association of American Educators?
Well, we're the largest non-union national teacher association. We provide all the legal and liability help and professional help that teachers need, but we don't contribute to political parties and don't get involved in controversial social agendas like gay marriage and abortion. Just help teachers with what they need and don't get involved in some of the things the NEA does.
So it's just a professional group as opposed to a union. Is that
well,
more?
That's right. Our main focus is that teachers are academic professionals. And, they're more like lawyers, doctors, scientists, and engineers than they are like steel workers. I grew up in Indiana. I grew up doing construction. That's great, but you get a degree to do a certain thing. So no doctor, very few anyway, are represented by a union. They're represented by the American Medical Association, a professional association. It's a difference. And so we think teachers, and of course around the country, more and more, it's almost 1 million teachers that have chosen not to be part of a union, but to be part of a professional association.
One of the things, Tracy, that's been lost in this whole debate, Ohio, Wisconsin, all across the country when it comes to professional or public employees and whether or not they're involved in unions, collective bargaining, and all of that, is there's a big difference in public employees, teachers to firefighters to cops to sanitation, very different jobs, very different needs, and very different concerns.
Right, and I think one of the other differences about that too, and you may be hinting at it, is of course that if you're bargaining against a private corporation who has a profit motive, there's a need and a time for unions, I'm sure, where they're going to take advantage of you. In the public sector, you're bargaining against the taxpayer, and it sets up some of the kinds of fights that we're seeing. Here's our biggest issue on that. Okay, that's a good debate. Have that debate. Should the collective bargaining laws be exactly the same for both private sector and public sector employees? We don't think so. But here's the biggest issue. The biggest issue is, yes, if you're gonna protect some things in bargaining, obviously protect the rights to bargain on salaries and wages, etc. But what the union's giving away in Wisconsin is go ahead and make the teachers pay more. They've already, from day one almost, they said make the teachers pay more for health benefits and for pension. Fine, okay. The union leader said that. What they said were adamant is you cannot take out of the collective bargaining law, you cannot take the union's right to force teachers to pay dues. To who? To the teachers' union. They're protecting their own money, their own revenue stream on the backs of teachers more than they're protecting even the teachers' salaries or the teachers' pension contribution. It shows the truth in what they're really worried about. And you see the same kind of thing going on in Ohio, is that in Ohio and Wisconsin and Indiana, the union is more interested in protecting the union's money than it is protecting the teacher's money or the teacher's rights. I guarantee that's true.
Are you an educator as well? Are you a teacher? Do you still?
Oh, yeah. I taught AP Physics, AP Biochemistry, Science Research Physics Honors. I'm a physics and space science major, and then I got a science ed degree, and I taught down in Florida near the Kennedy Space Center.
Oh, okay. How many members does your association have?
Well, nationwide, there's about 350,000 that belong to individual state associations that are their own professional teacher associations. So it's 350,000 that are in one of those associations, and then there are about probably another 350 to 400,000 who just have chosen, I'm not going to be a part of the union. Now, obviously, in right-to-work states, a teacher has a right to choose. Do I want to be part of the NEA, the AFT, or a professional association? In compulsory unionism states, like Ohio, like Wisconsin, those states that have the greatest debt load, I'm afraid, on these things, but in compulsory unionism states, you can force a teacher to pay union dues simply for the privilege of having a job as a teacher. Teachers in Ohio say, yeah, okay, that's what we know, that's what we've grown up with. That's not the norm. That's not the norm in the majority of the country. It's only true in the northern Rust Belt states, in the Northeast, and on some of the West Coast states. The majority of the country, even if they've got, right-to-work laws for private sector or if they've got compulsory unionism for private sector, the vast majority of the country says, but we don't do that to teachers. You're not going to make a teacher pay dues to what? They're not going to make them pay a tithe to the local church or to the local Masonic lodge for the privilege of having a job. Why would you force a teacher to pay a private special interest partisan organization, the union, dues for the privilege of having a job in a public school? Those are the biggest issues in the laws that are under attack right now, and those are probably the things that need to change to be more in line with a free society and a true profession.
Wisconsin and Ohio are a little bit different in that Wisconsin, the emergency service workers are not part of it. Ohio, they are. It's the general public worker thing.
That's a good observation. Yep.
So, like I said, there are distinctions there. But when it comes to Wisconsin and Ohio, public employees have ponied up vastly more. They've contributed much more to their retirement, the whole thing, than Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin's pretty obvious in the flaws that they have there. But the teachers there in Wisconsin, who, again, have not contributed like some other states like Ohio and that, I want to know if they really understand what the rest of us think about this, where, they're not contributing what some other people are, and how silly it seems when they come out and want to pretend that this is about education when it's really about the union for them.
Yeah, I agree. And in fact, it's a great observation that, and I've said from the beginning, wait. Now, again, I'm going to make a blanket generalization, and I apologize to any of my union leader colleagues who may be offended, but it seems clear that the union leaders in Wisconsin have not sat down to try to tell their members the truth, to say, hey, you know what? Nationally, even public employees contribute to their pensions, and they contribute a fair amount. They're really asking Wisconsin teachers to really come up to about the average the rest of the country is. And so, they cuss and they fuss and they fight and they get their teachers all inflamed, and then they say, okay, well, you know what? We're going to have to give in. You guys have to pay. But we, the union leaders, don't want to lose our forced ability to take dues from you, whether you want to pay us or not. That's just the kind of smoke and mirrors and blatant self-interest that I'm afraid the union is infamous for.
Talking to Tracy Bailey, the Director of Education Policy for the Association of American Educators. What is the sense around the country? I keep seeing these surveys that are done, and they say, okay, 98% of Americans are in favor of Scott Walker, 107 are not in favor. I mean, they just, I can't get a straight answer, and obviously those are skewed, and the wording comes down to it. But unlike other issues, usually you can kind of take all the surveys and studies and, know where they're coming from, and between like 3 or 4 of them, get a general sense of what people are thinking. I can't get a sense of this. I think the unions are very active and probably more vocal than people that don't support it or are not in favor of collective bargaining. The whole thing is just skewed. What is your sense? What are you feeling when you talk to different teachers around the country?
Sure. Well, largely, 2 truths come out. Number one, the nation is divided along these things, and in many cases split along party lines. But you see at least one additional truth come out, and this one's unfortunate. That is that citizens, taxpayers, parents, doesn't matter what stripe they come from, most of them are disappointed in the lack of professionalism being displayed when people are taking, illegal strikes or illegal sick-outs, or they're just leaving parents in a lurch. And every other survey on a different issue, how much do you respect? How much do you trust? How much credibility do you have of these types of individuals, these professions? Teachers rank at the very, very, very top and have for decades of those kinds of surveys. In fact, in some cases, by Pew and Gallup surveys, citizens have more confidence in teachers than they do in clergy sometimes. I think that's an amazing statement. Who ranks at the bottom, the very bottom of those same surveys? Used car dealers, sorry guys, and union leaders. Teachers at the top, but the union leaders that represent them at the very, very bottom. That is a growing disconnect. If teachers are true professionals and going to be treated and compensated like professionals, like lawyers and doctors, then they need to be represented by professionals, not by people that we all say, well, whatever that union guy says, he's looking out for the union. And that's just plain and simple. And that is a growing disconnect. That's one reason we're seeing a growing lack of public support for the cause of teachers because they're being pushed into things by people that are simply inflaming the situation, not really giving the whole picture. California is a strong union state. They pay 8%. Teachers in California pay about 8% public employee contribution toward their pension.
It's a lot more than Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, Wisconsin had been 0.6, basically nothing. Teachers in Wisconsin had been not contributing. As you say, teachers in Ohio have been contributing more. In New York State, now here's just an issue your Ohio listeners may not realize. New York's a strong union state, forced union dues, very similar to Ohio's laws, but there's one difference. In New York and about 6 or 7 other, union states, pensions are not legally able to be a part of collective bargaining. You can't hold the state pension fund hostage to a collective bargaining negotiation. Now, again, you can argue back and forth, should it be, shouldn't it be, but just the idea of, hey, guys, listen, even in some strong union states, they realized decades ago that you can't do it quite this way. I think that growing disconnect between professional, hardworking teachers and the unions that in some cases either ask for too much or they demand it in the wrong way, or in some cases, well, I grew up in Indiana, so, burning your seed corn or eating your seed corn, the unions sometimes will hurt the industry or profession that they should be protecting, to the point where that industry or profession loses respect or loses market share and people don't support it anymore. I hate to bring up the steel industry, but you know what I'm talking about.
Tracy Bailey from the Association of American Educators. I got a link in my blog, 700WLW.com, brought to you by the American Trading Company, and people can check you out if they need more information.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. I get some phone calls and some emails coming up as well. Coming up at 11 o'clock, what can you do without? I don't support bans. I'm somebody, make your own choices. But there are days I'm like, boy, I wish I didn't have to deal with that thing. Not necessarily people, things. Do that at 11:06, 700 WLW. Doc Thompson at 700 W. Got an email from Adam. Said, no one is forced to pay union dues, Doc. They can quit and go find another job in a non-union organization. He said that's the same argument used when a bar waitress calls in wanting the bar to be non-smoking. Well, quit and find a job in a non-smoking environment. No one is forcing you to work there. Then he says there's absolutely no consistency from righties on the right. No, you're right. They don't have to. I'll give you that. You're absolutely right. You don't have to become a member of the union in those scenarios. You could teach somewhere else. I'll give you that. Are you willing, though, to say the same thing about people saying they can't get another job, so they need collective bargaining, that there are no similar jobs? When I say you could go get another job, you don't have to do that job. Are you willing to say that when I make that argument? See, I'm the one being consistent on this stuff. You get hopped up at times because I'm talking about your money and your livelihood and your safety and your jobs, but I'm the one that's being consistent. I don't get that same attitude, the same consideration from many people. Little consistency when it comes to these things. It's very reactionary because it affects you. I've laid out that there's a difference between teachers and other public employees, firefighters and cops. I've laid out a difference between private unions and public employee unions. I've even told you union members that you're absolutely right. When it comes to all of the other outrageous spending and bad policies from people in government, you are absolutely right. You're also right that your piece of the puzzle, some of the things that we fund and some of the ways that you've had the people over a barrel, public over a barrel at times when it comes to different policies and things that the union support and that public employees get. I would rather that money go to you than some of the other things like the trolley car. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I want the money to go to you, somebody who's working and providing a service, than something that's not going to work, that is essentially flushing money down the toilet? Of course I'd rather have you have it. But the best case scenario is all of us, let's look at all of these things. Stop being reactionary about what affects our job and say, all right, when it comes to unions, you're not the biggest piece of the puzzle, but you are a piece of the puzzle. You're absolutely right about the misdeeds and overspending when it comes to other areas like the trolley car, and the list is limitless. Every day I'm bringing up different stories of overspending, misspending, bad ideas when it comes to public funds being spent. But we have to, if we're, look at Wisconsin. Look at Columbus. Look at what is happening. We are getting to a very bad point with the protesting back and forth. We are going to have to reach some common ground, and it is not the bogus common ground from people like Senator Seitz, who says it just so they can get reelected. We've got to compromise and all of that. They're saying it so they don't have to take the hard stance on the hard issues. I'm not talking about compromise and giving up. We have to find the things that we already agree on, that most Americans, not about where we spend the money, but if we spend the money. How hard is it? How difficult is it to understand that when you have a $14 trillion debt and maybe hundreds of trillions in debt and unfunded liabilities that are going to continue to hit us, when Social Security is broken, when states are that far in the hole, when we're not manufacturing in America anymore, when we have tied our manufacturing hands, which has led to manufacturing leaving the country, all of these things coming up, we need to find the common ground that is not a compromise where you're giving up something and I'm giving up something. It's the common ground that we should all understand. If we don't get serious and come up with some new plans, it's not going to matter. Day in and day out, the stuff discussed in the station is not going to matter because we're not going to be here. That's not an outrageous statement. Countries come and go. We've been a big dog for a long time. Most of us have grown up with the attitude that, guess what? That can't happen to us because America has been so strong. But it can. Do the numbers. What would your house or your business be like if you were on the same path? You wouldn't be around very long. So we got to get serious, and it's not if the money should go here, 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 here. It's that the money can't go anywhere. We don't have it. Part of that is cutting. Strategic cuts and across-the-board cuts because we're that far in debt. And then looking at our policies, not just at the state level, but local level and federal level as well, that continue to hurt businesses when they try to grow, manufacture, all of these things. The crazy policies of, well, there may have been a squirrel here that may be endangered, so we can't build a factory. We can come up with some common sense policies when it comes to that. But if we don't get serious about this stuff, it's done. And all of these arguments are moot. It's Doc Thompson, 700 WL. Part of the problems with the discussion is we go union to union and public employee to public employee, and teachers union to teachers union, and what teachers make when they're not part of a union, is that there isn't any consistency. Now, the Wisconsin teachers certainly had a much better deal than the Ohio teachers or a lot of others had. There's one study that said the average of Wisconsin teachers' compensation, total compensation, was $100,000 a year. That's the average. That's pretty hefty. Now, certainly Ohio's is not that high, but they do well depending upon their position, the area they're in, how long they've been teaching. Randy Weingartner is the head of the American Federation of Teachers, has about 1.4 million members. Very big organization. She was on MSNBC the other day discussing how much teachers get paid. And I think she was actually trying to defend some of the studies that have been out there saying how much they make and they're overpaid and all of this stuff. Here's what she had to say.
Wisconsin, or whether it's many of the other states, the social contract, and sorry, I'm a former social studies teacher, the social contract for public workers was modest salaries in exchange for modest benefits and modest retirement security. The average pension in Wisconsin is $26,000 a year. That translates to $500 a month for a public worker who's worked 20, 30 years. So that was what the deal was.
26,000, only 500 a month. It's not a whole lot. 26,000 and only 500 a month. 26 divided by 12. Yeah, that's not 500. That's almost 2,200 a month. 26,000 divided by 12 is $2,166.66 a month. She is the head of the American Federation of Teachers and doesn't know basic division. Can you play that again, Russ Jackson? I need to hear this. Doesn't know basic division.
Many of the other states, the social contract, and sorry, I'm a former social studies teacher. The social contract for public workers was modest salaries in exchange for modest benefits and modest retirement security. The average pension in Wisconsin is $26,000 a year. That translates to $500 a month.
Oh, it doesn't. It's almost $2,200 a month. I mean, even though she was a social studies teacher, I mean, you go to college, right? In order to go to college, I mean, you went to high school, junior high, elementary school. I mean, they still teach that, right? Basic division? Come on, really? You're not going to get that one right? Yesterday, Willie had on Bill Seitz again. He was in studio. I was listening to the interview. Some things stuck out. Here's the problem. When he's been on with Willie, he has basically sold himself as the person who's trying to compromise and get things done. Got a bunch of emails from people who've also said, seems pretty reasonable. I heard him take some calls yesterday and saying, it seems pretty reasonable things he said. Some of the things he said did seem reasonable. But then there were some other things that kind of stood out. He is right in, if you want to look at this entire thing politically, if you want to step back with no involvement of who's getting what, and your only goal is politics, getting certain people or certain parties elected or reelected or their future, he is right. Going full bore against the public employee unions and trying to give that SB 5 a shot and say, after these current contracts are done, that we will leave it up to local municipalities on whether or not they want to collectively bargain and some of the other things in SB 5. Politically, if you're trying to get reelected or your party elected or reelected or a future, then yes, going full bore with this and not, quote unquote, compromising is probably a bad idea. Is that what you're about right now? Are you looking at the politics of this thing? Are you interested in what the Republicans can or cannot get done at this point? Is that what you're hoping Bill Seitz and the other senators, the other members of the legislature, the governor, is that what you're hoping they do? Is worry about their party, whatever their party is, whether or not they can get reelected or whether or not politically it's the right thing to do? That's not what I'm about. I want people, wrong or right, if they think it's right, doing the job. Stand up and get it done. It was the doublespeak he gave about the death tax, the estate tax of, well, I'm not for it, absolutely not. Except here's the reasons I am for it. I'm not looking at the politics of this. You may disagree with my opinions on it, but I'm not trying to get Republicans elected or reelected. That has nothing to do with this. It has to do with what and albeit I may be wrong, what I think is right heading forward with the future for America, our communities, our states. It's not politics. No, I'm tired of the career politicians and that. I'm tired of... He seemed to hold like a badge of honor that he's been there for 10, 11, whatever years he said. Why does that matter? What is the importance of that? Let me play a clip for you. I got a clip from Willie's show yesterday. This is him with Senator Seitz when he was talking about Cincinnati Council and why you don't want the local municipalities negotiating without collective bargaining in that. Here.
Is that if a fact finder and a mediator fail to produce a satisfactory agreement, we will turn the matter over to the presiding judge of the Court of Common Pleas or to the equity judge and let the judge use his equitable powers to fashion an agreement for the parties. Courts, as you know, have broad powers to do equity. Courts in Ohio are elected. We elect our judges, so there will be an independent, elected official that will be the final arbiter under the proposal that Senator Grandel and I have advanced. Whether they're going to accept that or not, I don't know, because what I keep hearing from some of my colleagues is, no, we'll just let the city council decide. Or we'll let the General Assembly decide.
No.
Well, would you leave it up to the Cincinnati City Council to make these kinds of decisions? They are the very embodiment of management. They're the same people that have $136 million for a trolley, but not enough money to pay their cops. I'm not willing to repose that kind of power in executive branch management or legislative branch management. I think the judicial branch has greater respect and a greater ability to do equity and to reach a contract in those rare cases, 2% or less of the time, when they cannot get an agreement through fact.
There's some things wrong with what he said. Number one, I agree that better if the judges, the judicial branch, handle some of this stuff. However, to think that they are somehow above the law or above reproach or would always do the right thing because they're a judge and would not succumb to political pressure, judges are elected. Why wouldn't they be subjected to the same political pressures? One flaw. That's the first flaw in what he said. The second thing, when he said it shouldn't be in the legislative branch, it shouldn't be the General Assembly, and it shouldn't be Cincinnati City Council, both legislative branches, he then went on to attack Cincinnati City Council, but didn't tell any of the flaws in the General Assembly and the things they have done wrong. Can you go up just that part again? Just the part where he talks about that when he first says the General Assembly or Cincinnati City Council. I don't think he's wrong. Of course Cincinnati City Council has screwed a bunch of things up. Of course. But what has the General Assembly screwed up? Apparently not a whole lot, huh?
What I keep hearing from some of my colleagues is, no, we'll just let the City Council decide. Or we'll let the General Assembly decide.
No.
Well, would you leave it up to the Cincinnati City Council to make these kinds of decisions? They are the very embodiment of management. They're the same people that have $136 million for a trolley, but not enough money to pay their cops. I'm not willing to repose that kind of power in executive branch management or legislative branch management.
He's a member of the legislative branch, but he didn't talk about the body that he is a part of. He didn't talk about the flaws there. He pointed to flaws in other legislative bodies. Very, very political thing to do. So number one, judges elected. Of course, they are subject to political power or pressure as well. And apparently the only legislative body that's bad is Cincinnati City Council. No, there's a lot of them. I'm just looking for some consistency in this stuff. He is not. He's playing politics. And if you're somebody that wants Republicans to get reelected or elected, he's probably right. Willie's probably right with him on that stuff. Maybe common sense says they can't or shouldn't get all those things done if you're playing politics. But make no mistake, that's what it's about. That's what he's doing there. They're elected too. Yes, Cincinnati City Council is screwed up. Yes, I'll give him that. When he said that they're in the embodiment, though, they're the embodiment of management. We're all management. When it comes to public employees, we are all the managers, even the public employees, because they are the public and they pay taxes. They vote. We are all management. The difference, the people that we have elected for Cincinnati City Council or the General Assembly or the governor, we have voted them to represent us, to act on our behalf as managers. He's missing that little point too, that if they are acting on their behalf, on all of our behalf, and we don't like that, we have recourse. So if they are the embodiment of management and you don't like what they're doing, Cincinnati City Council, if you don't like what the General Assembly, the governor, you have recourse. You have recourse by saying you will no longer represent me. To think that they are he almost painted it like Cincinnati City Council is untouchable. Now, I know how politicians like to protect themselves, and quite often they're not untouchable, but it's difficult to make changes. But it is still possible. And he acts like that's not a possibility. They're the embodiment of management. So here you have a guy who Willie continues to paint as this great conservative. Maybe he is. He wants to pretend that as well. But now here's a guy who's saying that Cincinnati City Council is the embodiment of management, as if management is always bad. Did you catch that part about it? So why do you say that they're the embodiment of management? He said it as if to say they're the embodiment of Adolf Hitler. They're like dealing with Mao. What does that mean, the embodiment of management? So management is then essentially bad? Another flaw with Senator Seitz and his reasoning in this. This entire thing, and if you listen to his clip with Willie when he talked about the estate tax, is just politics. Doesn't matter if you like the SB 5, if you're for it, against it. None of that stuff matters for the purpose of what I'm saying right now. That's not an issue. Whether or not he supports it or not an issue. I'm pointing out we have an elected servant there, an elected servant who is our servant, who is simply playing politics with the whole thing. That is not what is needed. I'm not talking about compromising through the whole thing or having discussions. He's playing politics for him and his party. It's Doc Thompson, 700 WLW.